Okay, as all of you know, Obamacare has been talked about many different times, a lot about the pros and cons of it. Well, I'd like to talk to you about how it is affecting businesses, mostly the medium-sized and small businesses, and how it's affecting it negatively. My parents own a small business, so they know a lot of what is going on, and when I went to ask them about it to get information, they told me a lot about it, but I also got more info on it. Today I want to explain for you the impact of what Obamacare is doing to businesses. Some of you may work for small businesses and this may relate to you, so you never know. I will be discussing what Obamacare is doing to the businesses and how Obamacare is penalizing small businesses. The first thing you need to know is what Obamacare is doing. Obamacare is making it really hard for businesses to grow when they have tax burdens to deal with. Okay, Obamacare is imposing taxes to help offset the cost of individual employees receiving premium subsidies through the state and health insurance exchanges. The mandates are forcing companies, including companies that have lower than 50 employees, to react negatively to the cost increases. The upward pressure on the health insurance premiums is affecting the medium and small sized companies. The employees are bearing a lot of burden since the costs are being passed on to them in the form of lower wages, discontinued hiring, and even the loss of their job. And instead of getting more full-time workers, they're getting temporary or seasonal workers, because then they don't have to pay them health care because it's so expensive. Now that you know what is going on with healthcare and the businesses, let's take a look at how Obamacare is penalizing them. Everyone seems to claim that Obamacare is a really good health reform policy for small businesses that have 50 or less workers. This claim is not supported by the facts. Obamacare is exacerbating many of the concerns of medium and small businesses, but mostly small businesses in 3 ways. Higher healthcare costs. Obamacare does not bend down the cost curve for small businesses that they face when providing health insurance coverage. The endless regulations, mandates, and fees and taxes will put a pressure on premium prices, mostly on the fully insured market. 88% of employees of small businesses have health insurance. An analysis was made by the Heritage Foundation that roughly estimates 54.5% of the total premium tax on health insurers will be paid by workers and dependents covered by these employee group insurers policies. The second one is higher regulation compliance costs. Small businesses don't have the capacity to take on more administrative complexities. Many small businesses are hiring additional workers and incurring higher external accounting expenses to not only handle the compliance regulations on health insurance plans, but also a stricter tax compliance regulation that regulates to business transactions. The third one is Medicare taxes on flow-through and invested income. Obamacare is increasing the Medicare tax payroll and Medicare non-payroll, which is investment tax. This tax will apply to the flow-through income, which reaches a high significant share of small businesses. And also the wages on this tax increases increase are not indexed to inflation and are pushing more small businesses into the higher tax group. The Medicare investment tax also leads to a greater deterrence on investment and passive income, which will suppress economic growth. Okay, today I've explained what Obamacare is doing to businesses and what it is and how it is penalizing small businesses. And I know some of you will still not agree, and that's okay. I just wanted to let you know what it's doing and what Obamacare is doing to small businesses and medium businesses. And I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, well, we know what the subject is. I think that you need a stronger attention device, something that's going to create a little bit more interest and pull us into the subject. Your personal experience, I think, gives you a little bit of credibility here. I think that's the right way to approach it. But the phrasing on your statement makes it sound like it's an informative speech rather than a persuasive, and at the end of the speech you kind of go back to that same fallback position. You want to take a position on this, saying it is having this harmful consequence. Some of you may doubt that, but my goal is to try and prove that. And then at the end say, those of you who still don't believe it, well, you know, when you start losing your jobs, when your fees go up, maybe you'll reevaluate what I'm saying, you know, a few months from now. I mean, don't be shy about taking a position. You seem like you are unwilling to take a point of view, and that's exactly what a persuasive speech expects you to do. The secondary points, they both sound pretty much the same, so I'm not exactly sure how they've distinguished the ideas. In the first section, you've got a lot of description of what all these things are supposed to be, and I don't hear any source citations on what the consequences are, the impact it's going to have. I assume that you did research on this, but you're either not quoting directly or you kind of subsumed all of this information and have processed it without attributing it appropriately during the speech, and that's a little bit of a problem. In the second part of the speech, you've got a whole bunch of cause-effect claims that you're making, but I don't hear any examples or illustrations or facts. The one source citation I got was on the Heritage Foundation, and it talked about premium taxes and what we're going to be paying for in regard to those things. And then you got involved in administration complexities and income flow and a lot of stuff that I think people probably don't understand, and it doesn't make much sense to them, and how it's all connected to what you're talking about. You need to simplify this idea. It should come down to something pretty straightforward. Here's what the Affordable Care Act is going to require. It says this in the Act, it says this in the Act, it says this in the Act. Here's what those things would mean to small businesses. This cost, to be able to do this, is going to cost X amount of dollars, and small businesses can't afford to do that. To do this, small businesses would have to do this, but a lot of them are doing this other thing instead. Here are some examples of places that are doing those kinds of things, like cutting down on regular full-time employees, moving to part-time employees or seasonal workers instead. When it comes to administrative complexities, here's what it requires for businesses that sell food products, so on and so forth. Here's all the requirements that they have. And here's how much that costs to do those kinds of things. And here's an example about a small business that's having difficulty coping with those kinds of costs. I think you've got a good argument here, but it's not been developed very clearly as an argument. It sounds sounds like it's an informative speech on this idea, and you've you've kind of outlined what the argument would be. Now you have to go out and make the argument, and I think that that's where the weakness here relies. All right, thank you.